High school. Each year, millions of kids begin it. Some say it's the best years of their lives, others hated it. Either way, it's a mandatory period in our lives. And during that period, we faced many ups and downs. Bad grades, first kiss, first heartbreak, new friendships, you name it. In this short documentary you're about to see, I wanted to do a series of interviews to talk about that period of our life. But I also wanted to add an adult's point of view, so I filmed our school's guidance counselor because she's very close to students. Hi, my name is Fanny Coulombe, and I am a guidance counselor at the Polyvalente Le Carrefour, and today I will be answering some questions for a student's personal project. Do you find it that students stress a lot about their future? Do they stress a lot about their future and their plans for their future life? I think so. Is it necessary? I also think it is. I think it's okay to question ourselves on our future, and I think it's a sign of intelligence. When we take time to question ourselves and ask ourselves who we are, we make better choices for ourselves, and it's the base of the beginning to the steps of choosing the future. It's the beginning of the steps for orientation. We don't just leave students in the dark. We help them find themselves. Me and my colleague that is also a guidance counselor, we help them, and students from the school can benefit from a local called the CAO, where they can come and ask us questions or do homework during their lunch period. I think the students really need this place for them, this safe place for them to ask questions. They just need to ask themselves the right questions so we can help to guide them towards the right plan for their future. I think they place a lot of pressure on themselves because they think that by choosing what they're going to do in college or university, they're going to plan what they're going to do in the next 40 years of their lives, but that's not the case. As a guidance counselor, you take steps to help students decide what they want to do in the future. So could you just explain to us what steps you usually take? The first thing I think people need to know is that they always think that guidance counselors are supposed to tell them what to do, but we're just really here to give them suggestions and recommendations to guide them to what they want to do. The first step would definitely be to know yourself, and it being the first steps, it makes it harder for students because they're in high school and not everybody knows themselves at this stage in their life. It's also good to know about the workplace and the jobs they have out there, as well as the programs for higher studies. And it's sort of like walking upstairs. The first step is knowing yourself, then knowing the programs, and knowing the workplace if that's where you want to go directly after high school. And then when you know a bit more information about them, you can just put all the information together, and it will help you make a choice for the future. I usually start seeing students when they're freshmen or juniors, depending on where they're at. Some people like to come earlier, but yeah, we start when they're freshmen usually or junior, and then we just work it up till they're seniors. And for students who don't really know themselves, is it really just about knowing yourself, or is there another? Do you take other steps with them? It's mostly about knowing yourself, but there are some tools we could use, like there are some online tests, and maybe a little bit of research. Do a lot of students drop out, or do they go to college or university? Most of the students who come to see me have a life plan, whether it's the sabbatical year or to take higher studies. But it's not viewed positively in our society, like the sabbatical year, and families don't encourage it because it always brings the fear of, oh, am I going to go back to school? What's going to be their plan afterwards? But my job as a counselor is to guide them with their own choice. I'm not going to be here to influence them. I'm just going to help them make smart choices depending on the way they want to go, whether it's a sabbatical year or it's a higher education. And when students want to drop out, I usually tell the staff members to direct them to me so I can still help them make a life plan after they leave high school, so they don't just leave here without a plan. And if they do choose to drop out, I can refer them to some other organizations to help them, or to adult schooling. Do you often have ex-students or students that are not in the school anymore that come to see you to ask you advice? Yes, they come see me each week, and I really don't mind because I really do love my job. But the only issue is that I'm a guidance counselor in the school, so my main priority, sorry, is the students of the school, not the ex-students. Usually, in the beginning of September, people already come to see me to make appointments, so I'm already booked from September to December. Some graduates do come see me during the lunch period or during days off, and I don't mind. I love it. Do you find that parents give a lot of pressure on their children, or do us teenagers exaggerate about the pressure and anxiety we feel? So this is a theory of mine. The older you get, the more you look at the younger generations and you tell yourself, wow, back in my days it wasn't like that. Like you could look at the seniors and now they could be like, oh, look at the freshmen, they're so short. But when you were a freshman, you were like the same height as them. And I think with the older you get, the more you forget how it was to be at that age and at that stage in your life. I think people need to understand that it's fine to make mistakes when you choose a program, because either way, you can't lose your time going into a program. You're always going to learn something from it. Which is why I believe that students shouldn't stress themselves as much. Now, concerning the parents, yes, I think they do put a lot of stress on their kids. But personally, I am convinced that the human is made to work with a certain amount of anxiety and stress and pressure. At the same time, they put too much, not enough. I think it really depends on the parent. But it's like with teachers. Teachers have to adjust with the student, and I think parents do the same with their children. They adjust the amount of pressure they put on a child. Like you won't put the same pressure on both of your children. Let's take an example. In my family, I have two kids. One of my kids, I don't really need to put a lot of pressure on him because he already has that drive to be the best version of him or whatever, and to always do his best. But like on my other child, like I will put a little bit more pressure. You just have to adjust the amount of pressure you put depending on the child. I think when you're parents, the pressure you put on yourselves is mainly putting them pressure to fulfill dreams that you wanted to fulfill yourself. I see it a lot of times, but I don't think it's in the majority of parents. You just tell the parents to put a lot of pressure on their children. I would just tell them to grow as people, be happy with their own life. When you live your own life and you're happy with it, I think it's easier for people to see growth in other people, them grow in their own projects. I think when we're happy with where we're at in our life and when we're thriving, we give the image to our children that it's normal and it's good to be happy with what you have in life. Because we're talking about high school, it was obvious that I needed to do interviews with fellow students. So here they
Hi,
are.
my name is Sasha. I'm in secondary 5 in Carrefour. These are my two friends.
My name is Nicole and I'm a senior at Polyvalente de Carrefour also.
My name is Afamia and I'm also a senior at Polyvalente de Carrefour.
Okay, so how do you like your school?
I like my school because I like the teachers, I like my friends, I like who surrounds me in the environment at school. I don't know about you guys.
I like my school because it's not that hard. Like the studies are not too much. There's not a lot of pressure on me. The teachers are kind of nice and supportive, and when I ask questions, they always answer and they're always there for me.
Okay.
What about you?
In my opinion, this educational institute is very challenging. Although I really like it because the people that surround me are very nice.
Why is it challenging?
Because it really tests our limits and pushes our buttons as a student and really prepares us for the hard life that is going to come.
What's the hardest thing you've been through because of school? Like it could be homework, anxiety, or
I think
just...
the pressure of friends makes school hard. Like the drama that comes in your life and it interferes with your studies and friends. Like if someone breaks my heart, I'm gonna cry instead of studying.
Okay.
I think that like studies in general is sometimes it's really hard, or homework, projects, especially projects, I think, because it takes a lot of your time and sometimes you don't understand, so then you get like stuck on a question, so you have to go see your teacher, and it can be really stressful when you have many projects at the same time that you have to do. So if you don't organize your time properly, it can be a challenge.
I think the most challenging thing, except the studies and stuff, because that's just a way, it's just life. But I think it's the fact that we have to really open up more to other people, because there's a lot more people in our high school.
Do you guys procrastinate a lot? Or do you have issues with procrastination?
Well, I know for a fact that me and Nicole, we have a lot of issues of procrastinating, because like we have a lot of homeworks, and then we have homeworks and work, and we want to sleep, but we can't sleep. It's kind of hard because sometimes like me and Nicole, we want to do like a project together, and then like we discover we have a lot homeworks that we didn't know we had because we are irresponsible and we don't really write it in the agenda, so it makes it really hard for us to like have to study or everything like that. So we really do procrastinate a lot.
I normally don't procrastinate as much because I'm someone who really finishes my work on time. But I actually do procrastinate, but I usually think about my life and it really wastes some hours, or I take a small that ended up being a long nap. But I still see myself as an organized person.
Okay. What advice would you give to people who have trouble in school? It could be like either they have bad grades, or like, I don't know, they can't concentrate, or, you know.
Okay, well, I would say to go to the teachers or go to any people in the school that can help. There's a lot of people that can help you in the school. So just talk to people, make some friends that you can rely on. That could help too. If you have trouble having good grades in a certain subject, you should go to the tutoring classes at lunchtime, because the teacher, well, normally if it's not before an exam, there's not a lot of people that go to tutoring, which can help you because the teacher can really like look at what you have, what is your difficulties, and what they can do to help you, so that can really be helpful, and that's what I do. Also, if you don't understand something in class, always ask questions. That's something I do a lot that annoys many people, but I don't care because it's important to understand, because if you don't understand, then how do you want to study after? How do you want to get a good note if you don't understand what you're studying? Yeah. So that's what I would say for someone that needs help.
My advice would be for those people would be for them to always keep their head high and to not be afraid to ask for help, because that's what makes you stronger as an individual. Also, to find those good friends that could really stick by you.
Yeah, I really rely on Nicole a lot for my projects and homeworks, because I think she's really like responsible.
Does your school have good resources for people with mental health?
Yes. I have a teacher. She's the
ethics teacher.
ethics teacher.
No, the ethics teacher.
She's called Madame Thibault, and recently she like brought a bag full of like toys that we can press on when we feel like stressed, or like we need to press on something because we're having an issue, we're stressed for an exam. So she recently brought it in class, and a lot of people use it. I know my friends use it too, Nicole. She really uses it. And I feel like it's a great way for them to compress their anger, instead of Nicole like always taking my arm.
For example. Also, the psychologist at school, I know that we have one, so if you need help, you can always go to her. She'll always be there for the student. She will always be there to hear what you have to say, and I think that she will be able to help you, even though I don't think we have a lot of people in the school that can help you with those kind of problems, we still have some. And I think that we don't have as many because I don't think we have as many students that have very severe problems. So it would make sense. Yeah.
I think that we have a lot of good people that are responsible about mental health. It's just that students don't know about them. So when they actually do have an issue, they don't think about going there. And even if they do know about them, they're scared to go because teachers never really talk about those people in the school. So students don't think about going there. But we do have the responsible of our grade that can give us a motivation to miss a class if you really don't feel good or anything. So I think the school is well equipped to tend to people's mental health needs.
Do you guys stress a lot?
Yes.
Yes.
I stress a lot, but it was really more intense before. Now I try to control it a little bit, but I'm always stressed out. Like exams, they always stress me out. Projects a little bit less because you don't have a time limit to do it. Exams really have a time limit and it counts a lot. Projects, it really depends, and you can have help from friends and you can make it fun to do projects. Like, for example, I can go to my friend's house and we can do our project together, which makes it more fun to do. And so yeah, exams really stress me out. I don't know about you guys.
In my opinion, we do have a lot of work and much more than a lot of people can handle. Because not that we have too much, it's just that we were never taught how to handle all that work. So when we do have that much work, because we came into international and no one had any idea how to take a big workload, so when we actually had that much, kids don't know how to handle it, and that's why it makes people stressed. But at the end of the day, some of the students realize that they don't need to stress about it because it's not gonna get their grade up or get their project done. So at the end of the day, you need to understand that stressing won't help, and you need to just sit down and calm yourself down.
How do you deal with your stress?
Usually, I don't feel stressed. I'm just mad because I actually always have the time to finish my things. So I don't feel a lot of stress in my life. But I usually go with it. Sometimes I just don't feel stressed at all. It's just okay, I'm gonna have that exam tomorrow and I'm gonna fail it. And life goes on.
I don't really deal with my stress. I mean, well, sometimes I take breaks. That helps. Because when you're just too stressed out and you continue working, it just stresses you even more out. Or I try not to stay up late studying because that just stresses me out too. So I say, okay, well, it's enough. I already know everything, so why don't I just go to bed and next morning I'll be okay. Otherwise, I'll go out with my friends, change my ideas sometimes. It's not too last minute. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
If I can, to relieve my stress, I try to go outside, do something completely other that is not related with schoolwork, or just get your mind off of your books, because that's not going to help.
What advice would you give to people who suffer with stress or anxiety?
I was going to say to go outside and to walk in the cooler because Saul does it a lot, and that's really what I've known about her the most. Is that when she's feeling stressed or a bit, she just goes out to have some fresh air. Most of people do. I would usually go biking, but it's kind of cold in Canada. I don't think you could bike on snow. So what you usually do is go on Netflix and watch shows and distress for a bit, and then go study and then go watch shows. Yeah.
I would say practice a sport you like, because when I do sports, it really makes you
Accomplished?
Yeah, you feel good. You feel good when you finish and you just say, okay, let's go, I can do this. And you just go finish all your stuff. It takes you to another place, in my opinion, when you do sports. Or if you don't like sports, maybe drawing or something like that can really take your mind to another place and study.
I would think to just find someone that you can trust and who you can talk to about your stress. That way you understand that you're not alone and you're not the one that's stressing in the school. So that makes you feel a lot better.
Yeah, talk to your friends. yeah, I would say talk to your friends, because sometimes I talk to my friends and they'll always say, oh, well, I know you can do it, and it really helps. It really helps to know that someone else trusts you, like someone else can help you when you're finished, when you're done, when you can't do it, you're able to help yourself.
Do your parents put a lot of pressure on you? And if they do, what kind of pressure do they put on you?
I remember in my first year of high school, she put a lot of pressure on me. Like, I couldn't have like 85, like it was a bad move for me. But now she really doesn't care. Like I could come and say, Mom, I have like 66, and she's like, that's your grades, not mine. And I'm like, okay. So I just don't care anymore. Like I think like she realized, and she was like, oh, me too. When I was young, I had problems at school. Why can't my daughter feel the same too? So she's really supportive of my notes. But if I fail an exam, she's gonna kill me. It doesn't count. Bad notes and failing isn't the same thing. But I haven't failed an exam yet this year, so I'm kind of proud. What about you, Mister?
Personally, my parents put zero stress on me. It's when I'm stressed out, it's because of myself, because I want to have good grades. But at the same time, they don't put stress on me because they know that I can be good. Like I would never come at home with bad grades. Like when I have bad grades, it's really rare. And when it happens, they just say, oh, well, you can do better next time, so it's okay. Like my mom really doesn't care. And my dad also, he would say, oh, well, I know you can do better, so just next time try to get a better note. And they know, and I know that I'm able to, so they don't put any stress. But at the same time, they taught me that it's good to have good notes because for your future and everything. So I was educated that way, so that's why I forced myself to have good notes, I guess.
My parents were like the smart kids of their schools, so they expected me to have that much of good grades, but I don't. But I don't tell them, so they don't necessarily get mad at me because they never find out. But as Nika said, the pressure usually comes from yourself because you know that you can do better, and you know that like they want better. But my parents don't put stress on me that much.
It's proven that people who drop out of high school make 200,000 less money like in their lifetime than people who stay in high school. So what advice would you give to people who want to drop out of school, or they don't want to go higher, or yeah?
Well, there's two types of people who drop out of school because they have they have a big problem going on, and people who drop out of school because like work is hard. People who drop out of school because like school's hard, like it's people who really didn't like care about school and didn't. We have a lot of resources, we have a lot of teachers, we have everything, so that they don't like fail in life. So I don't get it why like they would drop out. Personally, I can't help someone who has that mindset because like I just couldn't agree with that person. I can't help them. But people who like really have something going on with their life, like you could give them emotional support, everything they need in order to get them back to school. They probably will anyways later, but I really think personally I couldn't give an advice.
Okay. I would tell them that they're able to do it. I would give them my help. I would support them, and I would let them know that there's people around that can help you. There's people around that care about you, and you have everything you have to finish your high school, and you're able to do it no matter what. That's what I would say to someone. And also open up and just stay positive, because if you're negative, like you won't go anywhere. You have to be positive, and you have to say to yourself, okay, I'm able to do it, and I'm gonna finish, and then everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think what Nika said is pretty good, and I agree with that totally.
Okay. So in conclusion, you guys think school is easy and you have all the resources, or?
No, I think it's very hard, but you still have all the resources to be good at it. But that you can have a lot of resources for something that's very easy and still not be able to do it. But school is actually harder than most things in people's lives. So that's why they put so much resources. They wouldn't put that much for resources for no reason, but just because there are people there to help us doesn't mean that kids are brave enough to go ask for help or go get that. It's just you can get help if you want to, and you can do anything if you want to. You just need to have the guts to do it.
Do you guys want to add anything else?
Yeah, well, I kind of feel pathetic because we say school is hard, but like we know that it was more hard like years ago, and that the system like slowed it down for us. And now I just kind of feel like our generation is done because like we really don't force the dropping rates are really like going higher than before. I have a lot of friends who dropped out, and I'm usually like what's happening in your life for you to do that. But I feel like our system like you know it's all said that they're gonna remove homeworks for like people in primary school, but I don't think that's necessary. I don't think they have a lot of going on in their life. It's like for them for something like that to be removed. Anyways, it's just gonna slow down their progress, and like we're gonna be less intelligent in life. Like there's not gonna be good doctor as good as they were before.
Okay.
I think that it depends on everyone because some people can find it easy, some people can find it hard. It really depends on what you're good at because at school you can do, like for example, at school it's really general. Like you have math classes, French class, science class, but you can be good at everything, right? But there's some people that are just good at everything. They're able to, they learn fast. Some people it takes longer time. Some people they have to study longer to have good grades. It really depends on everyone. So of course people that learn really fast, of course it's going to be easier for them. So I wouldn't say that they find school hard. But for me, for example, I find school demanding. It's not necessarily always hard, but it's just demanding because you have to focus, you have to do your homework, you have to take your own responsibilities, you have to do what you have to do if you want to get grades.
Okay, so do you think teenagers exaggerate when they say that school is hard or demanding, or do we have a right to have that opinion?
You have the right to say whatever you want is hard. No one should judge you because you think something is hard. You can judge someone if they keep on like whining without trying to do anything to fix it. Like you can say someone is not trying hard enough, but you can't say that he doesn't have a right to say something is hard.
During our time in high school, we faced a lot of troubles, so I thought it would be interesting to add a therapist's point of view, but he told me he didn't like to be recorded or to be audio recorded. So the next video you're about to see is just me basically summarizing the interview we had. The first question that I asked him was if people usually come to see him first or does he reach out to them, and he told me that usually people come to see him because they have questions or maybe they think something is wrong with them, but sometimes a member of the school staff can refer one of the students to him. Then I asked him what would he say to people who are scared to come talk to a therapist, and he's told me that usually people aren't scared to come talk to him, and if they are, what are they scared of? And he told me that usually people are scared of finding out that what they've been worrying about, what they've been questioning themselves about is true, or that something is wrong with them. But he wanted me to tell those people through my video that it's always better to seek professional help to see if you're really worrying seriously about. Okay. And he also said that it's always better to know than to not to know, and it's always good to seek professional help. And that usually most problems can be fixed, so if you get professional help, they can guide you to like medication or some sort of therapy. Then I asked him if he could give me a definition of anxiety and depression. For anxiety, he said that it was a worry that would just get out of control and would cause us to be uncomfortable and cause us to be extremely uncomfortable in everyday life situations. It could be as simple as having an oral, having an exam, or for people who have social anxiety, just going out, being like in a social environment, it could just be that. For depression, he just said that it was your mood, your positive mood, just switching like that to negative. It just going down to negative for no reason. Even though he said it was no reason, but he said sometimes they can have reason. Like if you lose someone in your life, that could be a reason for you to start getting depressed. But he also said that sometimes he said that we shouldn't mix up depression and character. Some people are just sad. They have a sad character. They've always had a sad character. And that's just a... He also said that depression and temperament shouldn't be mixed up. Basically, a temperament is how someone's always act. He said that a study proves that you can see how a baby's temperament and character is like from the first days it's in the world. It can be sad, joyful, giggly. But when we become teenagers, we kind of realize that, oh, my friend isn't like, oh, maybe, for example, let's say I'm a teenager who's angry all the time. Oh, you can realize, oh, my friend Darcy is happy all the time. Why am I not happy? Or like, oh, my friend Mia, she's always making funny. She's always smiling. Why am I always angry? Or my friend Izzy is always sad. Why is she always sad? When you're a teenager, you start to realize that there's differences of temperaments in the people around you, and you find like things wrong with yourself because you compare yourself to other people, but not everyone has the same temperament. And we try to basically change that when we get to teenagers because we're judging ourselves. But in life, we have to accept ourselves. And for example, someone who's timid. Being timid is just part of your temperament. It's not just going to go away. In most cases, even when you become an adult, it doesn't go away. Okay. And he also said that someone's temperament can bring false diagnoses. Let's say, he gave an example that if a child, when they're younger, they're hyperactive, they just have a lot of energy, maybe people will think they're hyperactive and put them on medication, but it's only part of their temperament. And before self-diagnosing yourself, you should go see a professional. And that anxiety and depression is just a state. It's just a state of mind, kind of. Like, you can get anxiety, you can get depression, but it's not a problem until it's always there with you. Like, it becomes a part of you. And that's when you should seek help to control it. Like for anxiety, control your anxiety or bring it down. And for depression, to get rid of it and solutions. And he said that the types of anxiety are phobia, generalized anxiety, anxiety related to separation, PTSD, post-traumatic stress. And that's for people who usually you see post-traumatic stress in people who come from war. And social anxiety. Okay. Then I asked him if he could give us some hacks to control our anxiety or to bring it down. And he said we could do actions to try to calm it down. Like, let's say you're stressing out about an exam that's coming up. Instead of stressing out and just thinking about it, an action you could do could be studying or writing your notes, rewriting your notes so you can remember them better. Or maybe studying with your friend. Instead of thinking and staying in your mind, doing the action that will help you with the thing that's stressing you out can help. He also said you can't really give a diagnosis if someone is depressed. For depression, it's in the 1st to the 6th month you can really tell if someone is depressed. For anxiety, it's around the 6th month. So you can't tell if somebody has anxiety until you've been with them for like 6 months, and that's when you can really give a deeper diagnosis. He also said that some people used to like stress balls, like maybe you've seen one in your classroom. They're using stress balls before an exam to calm them down, and basically the mechanism behind that is when you're holding a ball, you're squeezing it, and instead of being in your mind and thinking, oh, I have my exam coming, you're just like, oh, I have this toy. You're just playing with it, and your attention kind of shifts from your mind and your issues to the ball. Okay, let's say I have this toy. Okay, I'm holding it. I'm looking at it. Instead of thinking, oh, I have this exam, oh my gosh, I could be like, oh, it's kind of dirty, I need to clean it. Oh, it's really cute. Oh, I want to hug it. It's like a stress ball. Like people hold it. Instead of thinking in their mind, they're thinking about the thing that's in their hand. But it's only temporarily. But he said that it's only a short-term solution because when you get used to playing with it, you could play with it, but instead of thinking about it, you could think about your problems while playing with it. You could do both at the same time. So that's why it's not a long-term solution, but a short-term one. And he said that the advice that he usually gives to people is you have to distance yourself from the situation. For example, when you go to the theater, okay, you watch the actors and they're acting, okay? And he said to imagine yourself sitting in the theater chair or watching a scene from your life. Basically watching something that was stressing you out in a different point of view. So you can see that either you're overreacting or it wasn't that much of a big deal. So the next time that you in the same situation, you know how to handle it better. Let's say I have an exam tomorrow. Let's say last week I had an exam. I was stressing out so much. Even though I studied a little, I was stressing out so much. And, I had the exam. I got my exam back this week. I had a good grade. Now, if I would distance myself from this situation, I would see myself in classroom, stressing, thinking about, oh, I'm going to fail this, writing, fidgeting, shaking, during the exam. But then, if I would fast forward the scene, I would also see myself getting back the exam and realizing that I had a good grade and I shouldn't have stressed that much. But he said that distancing yourself from situations is a good solution. He said that another good solution would be to face your fears. And he said to face your fears. He said another solution would be to either face your fears. Okay, I'm gonna bring that back later. And he said distancing yourself, like a stress ball, even though that is a short-term solution, and having a balanced life. I'll bring back the exam example because I think we can all relate to feeling stressful because of an exam or an oral. Let's say you have an exam coming up next weekend, and we're Friday right now. But you work tonight, and you work Saturday, and you work Sunday. So because all those days you're working, you want to get to study. But if you learn how to balance your life and to more organize yourself better, you can have a more balanced life and you'll stress less because I studied for the exam for 2 days, 3 days. I'm fine. And the last hack he gave us was to face your fears. He said that avoiding our fears are only going to cause us to have less possibilities to do stuff in life. For example, I have a phobia of elevators. I hate elevators. I don't like being in a small room with people, and I don't like it, okay? So whenever I see an elevator at school, it's fine. I'm not going to go in the elevator because I don't like it. I'm just going to take the stair. Up the stairs. That's fine. The problem isn't walking down. The problem isn't walking up the stairs. But let's say I have to take the bus. I'm going to university now. I have to take the bus. But I don't like being in places that are crowded. So I'm not gonna go take the bus because I already made myself think that, oh, I can't take the elevator, oh, I don't like it, so I'm just gonna find another solution. So because you don't like the elevator, you ignore it, and you're not facing your fear, just find another solution. But with the bus situation, if you don't take the bus, you're limiting your possibilities. Okay, so now you're not taking the bus. Are you gonna walk? Or are you gonna get a ride from your mom? But your mom is working, so you're gonna have to walk. So that it gives you less possibilities to do stuff in your life.